This episode sponsored by Lake Monster Details, producing the Don's Light and Magic Legacy line of parts, offering upgrade parts and decals for accuracy, special effects, and lighting. Visit www.lakemonsterdetails.com and make it glow. Also sponsored by Decals, producing aftermarket replacement decals and custom quality graphics for your favorite spaceships. Visit www.gcals.company.site and add some personalization to your sci-fi models today.
Hey, what's up, fellow modelers? Will here. Welcome to the Ensign's Chair. This episode, I want to talk about some pre-build considerations. When you're talking about, really anytime you build a model, you want to take into consideration a couple things before you can get into the build, because they can impact how you approach the build. I'm talking about doing paint. I'm talking about doing electronics. There are some aftermarket parts, some accurizing parts I'm using this, but I'm going to save those for when we get into the build, when we actually get to that stage. Mainly what I want to talk about in this video is the paint, and I want to talk about the electronics, because especially on this 1350 refit Enterprise A, whichever you're building, basically you've got this model, you bought the box, you've got it, now what are you going to do with it? So I want to talk about some of the options there are out there as far as lighting, and I want to talk about how to approach paint considerations on this. So give me a minute, I'll put you on the bench, we'll get to work. Alright guys, so first up, let's talk about some lighting options. There's quite a few lighting options, but there's a few main ones that most people talk about when you talk about lighting the 1350, outside of people doing their own lighting setups. Now I do want to say, getting into this, everything I say is my opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean it's right, doesn't necessarily mean it's true for everybody. But my opinion of these kits and that are just that. They're my opinion. So don't anybody get their panties up in the wad because I make a comment about something that they don't agree with. All right. So first thing I want to talk about, and I'm not doing these in any certain order. The first one I just happen to have up is Tenacontrols. Now, Tenacontrols offers a number of lighting kits. They do very good lighting kits, and they're complete lighting kits. So when you order a lighting kit from Tenacontrols, you're going to get everything you need to light that model up. So let's take a look at the 1701A, and I think everything is under here, even for just the refit. Let's get something straight real quick. A lot of people just say the refit, and the refit and the A are two totally different ships. The refit is the refit because it is a update of the original frame of the original Enterprise that was used on the 5-year mission. The A, on the other hand, was a totally new build, and I'm not going to get into, it was supposed to be some other ship, and there's been a couple names tossed around. I don't think anything's really been mentioned in canon, but the A is a totally new build. It's not a refit. It's not a refurbishment of a previous ship. So those are the main differences right there as far as terminology. The refit is the refit. The A is a new ship. So let's get this straight when I'm talking about refit and A. Okay. So let's get back into this. All right, guys. So I want to talk about lighting kits, and just want to mention that my comments, anything I say on this video is my opinion. So just take it as that. I don't want to get into a debate about, oh, this kit's better than that. That's fine. There may be some things I don't know about these kits because I am not hands-on with all these kits. I'm basically looking at the website and kind of making a decision on these kits and comments on these kits based on the information that's available on their website. I have had interaction with buying kits from some of these companies, so I can speak on their customer service and everything. But as far as every lighting kit, I can't really say much about them. Now, the first one we'll talk about, I'm not talking about these in any specific order. It's just Tenacontrols. I have bought kits from them before. I used their, let's see, I got to go back one here. Their Reliant kit. I used that for my 1537 Reliant when I lit that up. And I also had, when I was doing my smoothie build, which is still sitting in a box somewhere, I bought the board for this one that says lighting kit time to the first Star Trek movie. Now, in case you're wondering, I did consider using that board for this build, but the problem is you do have some differences in the lights between the Enterprise Refit and the Enterprise A. Mainly that the strobes have a different blink rate. On the Refit, they were a lot quicker. The strobes blinked a lot quicker than they did on the A. And also between the A and the Refit, under the fantail, there was a light that I don't remember which was which. One was, without looking back at the movies, one had a steady-on light. I think it may have been the Refit, and then one had a blinking light under there. And I don't know, that may have been the A. But one or the other, one had a blinking light under the tail fan section. The other one had a steady-on light under the tail fan section. So those were your main differences, other than the blue and violet color differences between the warp chiller grills. Those were your main differences in lighting. So there is a difference between those kits. So you can't just, you can just get a kit that says it's for the Refit and use it for the A. Nobody's really going to care. It's up to you. But just know there is a difference between the blink rates on these. So you do need to look at that when you go to get these kits. Because somebody may just buy this for the first, kitting time to the first Star Trek movie. That means it's going to have your strobe is going to have a quick blink rate, whereas for the A, something specific for the A is going to have a slower blink rate, which is correct to the movie. But they have a couple of options. You'll have to go under these and look at each one. I'm not going to go through each one. I think their top of the line is this Bluetooth lighting kit, though. And I'll talk about that one real quick because it's comparable to some of the other kits we're going to look at. But the Bluetooth lighting kit is remote controlled. You can connect to via Bluetooth with either a phone or a tablet and control the lighting on the kit. There's a demonstration video on here you can go and watch. And this kit is going to have everything. It's going to have your RCS thrusters. It's going to have your spotlights. It's going to have your internal lighting. It's going to have, I believe it also has your Raytheon lighting effects on there for you to do the Raytheon lighting. And it's got your navs, your strobes, your warp chiller grills, your impulse crystal, your impulse engines, your sequential landing bay lights. It's got everything you need and everything you could possibly want to light this model up. So this is one of the top of the line options. Like I said, I think there is an option without the remote control. It's either this combo or this mega board. I can't remember which one, but you'd have to go back and look. They do offer the landing bay sequential running lights separately. They offer the deflector dish separately, the navigation and strobe board, which I actually have. They offer separately. And they also offer the RCS thrusters lighting separately. They also do a shields up and down lighting kit, which is similar to the effect you saw. I think that's the one we're showing on the Reliant, but this one lets you do it on the Starship if you want. It's really expensive. It's $183 to add that effect, but it's kind of cool. So they do offer that option, but that's Tenacontrols. Let's take a look at Trek Modeler. Now, Trek Modeler is a little simpler of a selection. They offer two kits for the 1350 refit. There is the refit, or I'm sorry, they offer two kits. They offer the refit, they offer the Enterprise A. And the only difference that I've seen, that I've noticed in these kits is, other than the sound effects are a little bit different, the only difference I really noticed is that the A does not come with the amber ramp-up option, which I was kind of disappointed with. I even though they don't show it on screen when you see the A from Star Trek, the end of Star Trek 4 on through 6, it can be assumed that it does it still when it's in power down mode. So I kind of want that effect. It's on my list of lighting effects I want. I want the ramp up effect of the amber and the blue. I want the warp chiller grills to light up and go out. I want to be able to have the landing bay sequential lights, and also want photons. I'm not too worried about phasers, but I do want photon torpedoes to be able to fire. So there are some things on my list that I want to get checked off, and unfortunately the A did not check off all those. So I won't be using this kit this time. However, when I go to build the refit, I love their setup for this kit. They've got video on here you can go and watch. It's a great kit. The sound effects are awesome. It's basically like listening to the movie as everything lights up. So it's pretty cool. Go check it out. Take a look at that. Maybe it works for you. If you're not too worried about the amber effect, it does ramp up to the blue and ramp down and do all that. I will say one thing that doesn't work for me between the Tenacontrols and the Trek Modeler kits is that the impulse engines being lit is tied to the dish being amber. As far as now, I don't know. It might be different with the Trek Modeler. I know one of them I watched at least. The impulse engines were only on when the amber dish was lit up. When it was a blue dish, the warp chiller grills were on and your impulse were off, which I don't really want that. I want to be able to switch between impulse and my warp chiller grills with the blue, without affecting the blue and the amber deflector dish. I want those to be different. So that didn't really work out well for me, and so that's why I kind of chose not to do it this time. But definitely, if I was doing the refit, I would definitely be going with the Trek Modeler kit because I think it's an awesome kit. I like that they have a dedicated remote instead of having to hook up a phone or a tablet through Bluetooth. I have heard that this PDF guide is awesome. It's a color guide, and you can print it off, or maybe they send it with it. I don't recall, but I've heard it's a pretty thorough guide, and it's pretty easy to hook it up. Everything is plug and play. As far as I know, you don't solder anything, whereas with the Tenacontrols kit, you're going to be doing some soldering. As far as I know, typically with the Tenacontrols kits, you're going to be doing some soldering. So just keep that in mind too between these two kits. The price points on these, looking at Tenacontrols top of the line kit, you're looking at $327 plus shipping and handling. And with the Trek Modeler kit, depending on which kit you get, it's $339 for the Enterprise A, and it's I think $20 more for the refit version. And they also ship internationally too, so that's a good thing to have as well if you're over the pond, so to say, and you need a lighting kit. Trek Modeler, you can look at them, and they do ship international. I don't know about Tenacontrols. I haven't looked at their international shipping, but so those are the two main ones that a lot of people talk about when you mention lighting kits. So I wanted to show those two, but there are a couple other ones. There's several other lighting kits out there, but there's two other ones that I've had experience with that I want to share with you as well. And one of those is Starling Technologies. Now, Starling Technologies has, again, they offer a number of kits. I have used their Klingon Bird of Prey kit. I will tell you that so far all these companies that we're talking about, Tenacontrols, Trek Modeler, and Starling Technologies, their customer support is awesome. I've had to contact all three of those at one point or another, and I've gotten responses back real quick. So they have really good support. But let's take a look at, they've got the refit and A kit. So let's take a look at that. I'll close this. I think I've got multiple of the same tabs open. So one thing I will say about this is they don't have a main end-all be-all kit. It's basically pieced out, so you will have to buy things separately. And I did price it up. If you bought everything off their page for a kit equivalent to what you would get from Trek Modeler or Tenacontrols, you'd pay about $100 more. It was running about $450 for everything. That would mean buying their Generation 3 or their Generation 2 weapons kits, which basically do the weapons, the photon, the phasers, and I believe they do your lighting as well, your main lighting. Excuse me. But one thing I will say about these right off, the difference between these, as far as I know, the only difference is that the Gen 3 actually uses freaking laser beams. It uses real laser beams, but don't get too excited. I think it looks like it's just a laser pointer really that's wired in. So you're not going to blow things up with it. So don't get crazy. But they do laser beams. They do use laser beams. If I can talk right, they do use lasers for the lighting, the photon, or not photon, but phaser effects on this kit. I think the Gen 2 just uses the LEDs, the red LEDs, but it's a cool option to have if it's something you're interested in. If you blew a little smoke through it, you would see a laser beam shooting through. So it's definitely a cool option. They do have some other individual boards for nav strobes. This one's an adjustable board where you can adjust the flash rate. This one lets you change with the push of a button, I think, from the 1701 refit lighting to the refit lighting. So that might be something to look at too if you're interested in being able to swap between the two. And then down here they're going to offer their engine and deflector control boards separately. Now another cool thing that Starling Tech does different from Tenacontrols and Trek Modeler is both Tenacontrols and Trek Modeler use a bicolor LED, which basically is a single LED, which I think it's like 5mm LED that changes from blue to amber and back and forth. Starling Tech uses an actual RGB LED to do that lighting effect, and supposedly it's supposed to be a lot smoother. I will be able to tell you once this kit gets in, because this is one of the kits that I am using for my build. And I'll talk more about what I'm using here in a little bit. But that's a pretty cool option. So they've got these the lighting kits here for the deflector and your RCS thrusters. This one is just the deflector. This one has your deflector and your RCS thrusters in it. So really cool option. I'm interested in taking a look at that. Another thing they do, again, now Starling Technologies, a lot of people may not be familiar with, but they do some cool stuff. So another thing they do different with their RCS thrusters, with Trek Modeler and Tenacontrols, the RCS thrusters just light up and they stay lit. As far as I know, they stay lit depending on what mode you're in. They just stay solid lit. Starling Tech has a random firing RCS thruster control board, which basically makes your RCS thrusters light at random instead of all being lit at one time. And I've got some pretty cool. I got a cool idea to use that for. So again, this is another kit that I'm using on mine. So that's two I'm using from Starling Tech. I'm using their deflector dish board, and I'm using the random RCS thrusters. So it's going to be cool to get those in and take a look at those actually working. It's really getting me excited for this build, as a matter of fact, because these are things that I haven't done. When I built my 1350 before, I just did static lighting. I used LED strip, and that's it. I think I used a couple of individual LEDs for the dish and for the crystal, but everything else was just strips. So I didn't do any special effects or anything on that model, and it held out till recently. It didn't survive this last move, and I had to throw it away, but I'm really looking forward to getting this and doing it proper. So Starling Tech is another good consideration to take a look at. It may have some things that work for you, but again, it's just a little disappointing they don't have a end-all be-all board package, to light it up equivalent to Trek Modeler and Tenacontrols. So it is something to keep in consideration. Another one I want to look at is Madman Lighting. Now, Madman Lighting is owned by Tenacontrols now. I think I guess Tenacontrols bought out Madman a while back. I've used their Klingon Bird of Prey kit. Matter of fact, I used it for a previous build, and it was a good kit. They do have some pretty good prices on their kits. The only downside is that they don't have a kit specific for the 1350 refit or A. They have a big Starship lighting kit, which basically can be used on any of the 1350 ships, the NX or the refit. So for $174, in my opinion, you're better off going to Tenacontrols itself and buying the $200 mega board, or whichever board this is, like $200, does everything, and it's specific to that kit. So, but I do want to show you this because they do have some other cool model options, and they do have this dual. It's the only one I've seen. Now, Tenacontrols mentions that they have an individual weapons kit, but I didn't see it on the website unless it's listed somewhere else. But Madman does have the dual photon torpedo effect lighting kit, and this is also what I'm using on my build. So I'm kind of piecing together my build. I'm doing Individual inside lighting I'm doing myself. It's going to be custom build, custom wired up, and using LED strips mostly. But for my effects, the dual photon, to do the dish, the warp chiller grills, the RCS thrusters are all going to be control boards. 2 of them are coming from Starling Tech, and the other one is coming from Madman Lighting. So it's another option to consider, though. They do have some other models that they offer lighting kits for. So take a look at them and see what you think, and make a decision for yourself. But they all have videos. I'm not too sure about Madman Lighting having. They do have a video for, because I've seen a video. I may have had to go on YouTube and find it, but they did have a video on here somewhere for their lighting effect for the photon torpedoes. But let's see, is it? Oh, there it is. So you can go on here and watch that and see how that works. Just some things I want to point out and for you to consider if you're not familiar with lighting kits, if you're just getting this model and you're looking to build it and you don't know where to go. There are some very good options for you to look at. There are some other ones out there, and please, you guys that are out there that have used lighting kits from other companies that have had good experiences or even bad experiences, feel free to share them in the comments below. I want to get the information out to people that don't have it. Now, I will say there was a lighting kit out, a company from Starling, I don't know if it was Starling Technologies or what, that was run by Paul Jasmine. Now, I don't usually throw people under the bus for anything, but I know I'm not the only one that this happened to. I had ordered a Klingon Bird of Prey lighting kit from Starling Tech, and I got sent the wrong board. It was actually the board, come to find out, it was a board for the JJ prize, which I ended up buying a JJ prize anyway, so I'm going to use it. But I come to find out from talking to some of the some other model builders that they also had ordered lighting kits and got sent the same wrong kit. So definitely a little disappointed in that. As far as I know, that website is down, and Paul isn't doing any business anymore, which is fine because everybody pretty much got ghosted after that and got left with lighting kits that weren't as they ordered. So there are some companies out there to watch out for. So please, bad experiences, good experiences. If you've got other companies that I haven't mentioned, please list them below. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I have to say about lighting. So let's start talking about paint. All right, guys, so I did say painting, but there is another option as well, and I want to talk about decals because some people may not feel comfortable with doing the Aztec painter. You may not want to spend the money that's involved to do the Aztec painting. So another option is definitely to get Aztec decals. Now, there's a number of Aztec decals out there. But my sponsor and friend, Gus, over at Decals, is, and you may be aware that he doesn't currently have a 1350 refit or a Aztec set on his website. He is working on a set and should have those out here shortly. And he has sent me some photos of those Aztecs, some sample photos of those Aztecs, and he will be offering them in a light, a medium, and a dark. So you can kind of customize how visible you want that Aztec pattern. Do you want it to be barely noticeable, very subtle? You can do light, you can do medium, but if you want to be very present, noticeable, you can do dark. So he's going to give you 3 options to do those in. On top of that, he's also working on a colored set. And he's doing some experimenting with it right now. He's experimenting with some pearlescent colors to see if he can make it pearlescent, or even without the pearlescence, it would be a pretty good option if you're doing the A. Maybe he'll offer these as an option without the pearlescence as well if you want to do that. And you could use these for the A, and maybe you may have to tone them down a little bit with some paint. It depends. His decals are transparent to an extent, so they may actually tone out pretty well without doing any toning down at all. So we'll get a better look at those. Gus is going to send me some samples once he finishes getting these worked up. And later on in another video, we'll take a look at these once I get a sample of them in to take a look at. But Gus is always on it. Anybody that's dealt with decals knows that he always offers top-of-the-line decals. So link is always in the notes below. Go visit Gus and check out his multitude of other decals that he offers on his website. But definitely another option if you're not comfortable with painting. And in between that, another option is on Starship Modeler. And again, I will post these links in the notes below. Starship Modeler actually has a number of templates that are free to where you could print your own decals if you want to do that. Or if you're not familiar with printing decals, again, go to Gus. But if you want to try to do the paint and you don't really want to spend the money on the Aztecs, they also have the option on here to make your own Aztec templates using Frisket. You print onto Frisket paper, and that's how you make your templates. So definitely go check these out if you're interested in taking a look at that and maybe trying to work that out. They do have a couple different options. There's one here. There's another Refit Enterprise Aztec grid pattern. USS Enterprise A detailed decals. That's for the Earl kit though, so make sure you watch what you're looking at here, because some of these are for the 1537 and some of these are for the 1350. They've also got some for the Enterprise C and a couple other kits, the D, the E. So definitely take a look. This is a good resource to have. Everything on here is free for these resources. So I'll put the note, again, I'll put the link in the notes below. Take a look at them and check them out and see if maybe something there will work for you as well. But on to the painting. So as far as painting options and doing the Aztecs yourself, Aztec Dummy, Lou over there has been around for a while. He's been making these templates, these masks, and he has a number of masks out. I used his masks for my 1400 Ambassador class, and they were great to have. I also used his masks for my TOS Enterprise, his window masks, and they work out great. He makes quality Aztecs, so definitely worth considering. I will tell you that I don't think he has his own website. It looks like you either go to this is Federation Models, has his Aztec templates for sale, and also you can get them at Cult TV Man, has them for sale as well. Now it looks like he's got two different sets. He's got the basic paint masks, and then there's another one that's for an add-on detail. So the basic one's $52.99, and the add-on I think was another $30 or $40. So you're talking about $95, maybe $100 at the most for the complete set. I will mention, and Lou kind of points this out himself, these are not 100% accurate, but they're pretty damn close. They're pretty good. Now, since this is an Ian Lawrence tribute build, I will mention that Ian did a comparison between, if you go look at his page, which I've got the links in the notes below, you go look at his page, he does a comparison between Aztec Dummy and Orbital Dry Dock. Now, Orbital Dry Dock, as far as I know, isn't selling right now. When you go to their website, it's just a placeholder saying that they'll be back in 2023. I have used one of their mask sets before, did not have a great experience with it. The Aztecs would not stick to my paint finish, and it could have been my paint finish, but I ordered did I close the page accidentally? Yeah, I think I did. I ordered there is no web page for it. I ordered the Mass Design Aztecs, and they stuck to the same finish perfectly fine. I had no problems, was able to finish painting it using their Aztecs. So I did have a bit of an issue with Orbital Dry Dock, but Ian seemed to prefer Orbital Dry Docks over the Aztec Dummy ones because they were more accurate. Now, there has been a revision since then. I don't know how these are since the revision. Again, these aren't something I have on hand. But either way, they are definitely worth consideration. If I was just going to do a simple gray pattern on this as an A, I would definitely consider using the Aztec Dummy Mask, because it's a basic set, and it's maybe not overcomplicated, or as complicated, I should say, as the Mask Design kit is going to be that we're going to look at. but definitely worth considering. The other one to take a look at, and there is no web page for it, you have to go to their Facebook page, and I'll see if I can pull up that file. I don't think I have it. All right, so here's Mass Design's Facebook page, and as far as I know, this is the only place you can go to order these. But Mass Design has a very good detailed set. They offer 2 sets. They offer one for the refit, and they offer one specifically for the 8. Now, I did not know that. I did not notice this when I ordered, and I ordered the refit kit, which is fine because I'm going to do a refit at some point. And I did message them over there at Mass Design and ask about it, and they pointed out that they did have a separate A kit because there are some differences in the painting between the refit and the A, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But they have an A kit, and basically the way you order these is you go into Files, and they've got a bunch of stuff, but they've got an order and brochure PDF here. And you click on that, and it should open up. And then you've got the brochure here that talks about the kit. And very detailed kit. As far as I can tell, it's pretty damn accurate, if not 100%. It's in the 90th percentile probably for accuracy to the studio model, as far as I could tell. So they have a couple different options. They have the base kit, which you'd have to read through here. I don't recall what exactly the total difference is between the 2 kits, but you have the base kit, which is $65 plus $20 of shipping, 65 cents. So it's $85 for that kit. Or you've got the full kit, which is what I've ordered. I think the base kit doesn't have some of the additional Aztec, and it's just got the basic Aztec. It doesn't have some of the overlay Aztec that you would do. Whereas the full kit does. It's got all that. So that one is $85. It's $105 with shipping. And like I said, the Aztec dummy, if you get both their kits to have a complete kit, would be about $85, $95. So for $10 more, you can have the Mass Design kit. They also have one for the TOS to add some details to there. But it's a pretty cool kit, and we're going to take a look at it when we get to actual painting. I've ordered, like I said, I had to reorder that kit because I ordered the one for the refit. So I've got the A coming in, and it's going to have all your proper and appropriate Aztecs for that. So another good option to look at, to me, between those options, this would probably be the best one to choose if you're going to do the full color painting like I'm going to do, but I'm going to try to do it dulled down. And I have been doing some painting tests. All right, everybody, so here we go. I've been doing a lot of paint testing and trying to work out kind of a interchange between the paints, because the Trek Modeler guide, which I've got, the Trek Modeler paint guide, which I have to give props to Trek Modeler. I had bought the original guide several years ago. Now, I caught a lot of flack from them because I said their guide was worthless, and that was probably a strong word to use. It wasn't worthless. I did get some use out of it. My main issue with it was being inexperienced with mixing paints. It talks about mixing certain paints, but it doesn't really give any ratios to work out. Being another 4 or 5 years later now, I'm a little more comfortable with mixing paints, and I've been doing some work myself and figuring it out. I will tell you what ratios I go with once I get it worked out. But I want to talk about their paint list, because a lot of people may have a hard time accessing these paints. They were using the Model Master paints, which are discontinued, and unless you find them somewhere obscure, they're not easy to find anymore. Most of them probably aren't existent. I do have some of these because I bought these when I originally got the Trek Modeler guide 4 or 5 years ago. Sorry, there's a bug. But so I actually had these because I stocked up on them. The problem is they've been sitting so long, some of them are starting to dry out, and I've kind of switched over. If you've been watching any of my builds, I've switched over to using craft acrylics, such as this. And I use those because, one, they're easy to get. You can get them from Hobby Lobby, you can get them from a Michaels, and most people have either one or the other close by. You can even get these to some extent from Walmart. Walmart has some of these, but In order to get all these ones I'm going to mention, you're probably going to want to be near a Michael's or a Hobby Lobby. But anyway, I've got the list here, and Trackmile has pretty much switched over from the Model Master to the AKs for the most part. There's a Humbrol Life Color, which I've never actually heard of before. And they do have a tester still. They got a Tamiya in here, and testers again. So they do have 2 testers paints still in here, but most of it they switched over to the AK paints. And I do have a couple of the AKs to look at because I couldn't find, I think 1 or 2 of these I couldn't find in the Model Master, so I went ahead and got the AK color. But I'm not going to talk about the AK colors because their paint guide is based on those now. I will talk about the Model Masters because they're not really available anymore, and you would just have to find the similar color, which I am going to show you a comparison and an interchange for craft paints if you're interested in that. I know a lot of people talk about they don't want to do craft paints because they're not as durable as the enamels, you know, that you would buy for model paints. But I'm telling you, since Boyd turned me on to these, I have been using these almost. I painted my big bird completely with these. My 1350 bird, which I'm still working on finishing up, I'm painting with these. And as long as you paint with these and you protect them with a clear coat afterwards, they are awesome. I have not had any problems with them, and I actually get a lot less paint lift with these than I ever did with the enamels or the other acrylics that you get specifically for models. So it's a great option. Try it out, and just give it a try. See how you like it. If it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. But at least give it a try. Don't knock it until you tried it. But so let's talk about the paints now. They used to have a the Trek Model guy talks about a flat pale green. Now, I actually have the Model Masters flat pale green. I've got a couple bottles of this, and they're actually still good and usable. So what I did was I took all of these paints, the Model Master paints that I have. I've also got the AK color that they recommend as a replacement, which is also called pale green. But I took all these paints and I put them on a swatch, and I went to my local hobby shop, and actually it was this one because you can see where I've got all the different colors on here, where I've done some mixing and some matching, trying to figure out which paints are the closest. I will say that you don't have to be spot on with these because even the crossover from the Model Masters to the AKs are not 100% the same color, not the same tone. You can see that on here with this pale green. You've got, let's see, I did the Model Masters version here. But you can see, I don't know, and actually I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but the AK version is slightly different shade of green. It's not the exact same shade. And actually the craft acrylic paint I came up with is a closer shade of green to the original Model Master paint than the AK. So don't be too worried about getting these 100% to what the paint calls for, because they're going to be off. Even if you go with the AK brand now, they're going to be off from the original color, and but you're going to get basically the same result by the time you mix everything together and do what you've got to do. But what I ended up using and going with was this Deco Art Desert Cactus. This is a dead-on match for that pale green, that Model Master pale green. So Deco Art Desert Cactus, first paint down. The next paint was this Model Masters Neutral Gray, and again, took it to the store, did a swatch on it, and the exact match I came up with was this Smoke Screen. Folk Art Matte Smoke Screen is the dead-on match for that. You can see that on the card here. Again, the camera's going to kind of change the tones on these, but trust me when I say it's a dead-on match for that color. And you've never experienced a hard time matching colors until you've tried to match white. This is just a plain flat white from Model Masters. That's what the paint guide calls for, and I matched it to this cottage white, this Folk Art multi-service satin cottage white. I had to go through about 5 or 6 different whites before I finally found this white. And you don't know how many differences are of shades of white there are until you start swatching out some whites. And you see the very subtle differences. The difference here is it's a light white and it's got just the slightest touch of a green tone to it when you look at it against a white background. So it was hard to find, and I finally found this. I actually had to go to 2 different stores, and I think I finally found this at Michael's. But it should be available also at Hobby Lobby because they carry all the folk art stuff as well. So that is folk art, cottage white for the white. The next one down is a gold gray, flat gold gray. And again, I found a pretty dead-on match to this Craftsmart gray, just plain gray, Craftsmart. Craftsmart, as far as I know, you can only get at Michael's. So I can't help you if you only have a Hobby Lobby nearby. I had to go to Michael's to find this. I didn't really find anything at Hobby Lobby that exactly matched this color gray. This did. So I've got that. The next shade is flat light sea gray. And this one actually is the same gray that I just showed you. But I did 10 parts gray to 1 part black because this is noticeably just a shade darker than the gold gray. So put a little bit of black in the bottle and it's going to tone it down or darken it just a little bit and you'll have it good. Like I said, you don't have to be 100% accurate with these, but you should have a noticeable slight darker tone to it than the other paint. All right, the next one down is the navy blue gray. Where's my Model Master navy blue gray? And again, this is one of those paints that you don't have to be, that's black. You don't have to be 100% accurate with, but this one is pretty damn close. It's called Cloud Sky. It's Anita's acrylic paint. And Cloud Sky is a pretty damn close match to that US navy blue gray that they want you to use. So good matchup there. And then we had the black. Now this Euro 1 gray, I say black, but it's actually supposed to be Euro 1 gray. I had a bottle of this, but it dried out. But the closest match to it is this NATO black. And AK has a NATO black, and also Tamiya has a NATO black. XF69 is NATO black. The closest match I found to that was this folk art wrought iron paint. And don't let the title fool you. Euro 1 gray is so dark. It's such a dark gray that it's almost black. It's like a black with a slight tinge of gray to it almost. It's more black than gray to me. Should have been Euro 1 black, but they call it Euro 1 gray. These you use on the outboard grills on the warp nacelles is mainly what this is used for. There's a couple other spots I think it's used for, but anyway, again, wrought iron folk art matte paint is a pretty dead on match for that. The next one is yellow. They call for an insignia yellow from Model Masters, which again I've got here. And what I did was, the closest paint I came to was this Moon Yellow multi-surface folk art paint, Moon Yellow. And what I did was I added about 10 drops of brown to this. And it's again, after doing that, it's a pretty dead-on match to that Insignia Yellow. But again, it's Moon Yellow folk art multi-surface paint. Now this tan color, this, what do they call it, random tan, is what they called it for Model Master. The alternative to that is AK Random Tan, which again, if you know this, if you can tell, there's a difference between the Random Tan from Model Master and the Random Tan from AK. So again, don't have to worry about being exact on that. The closest match I could find to it, I basically did emptied out, poured out about a quarter or a third of this bottle, or yeah, a quarter of this bottle, and poured a quarter of white back in. So I had 3/4 of this bottle with the this latte, Anita's acrylic latte. I had 3/4 of the bottle left in there, and I dumped a quarter bottle of white in here to tone it down more. And it's It's still a little bit dark, but it's pretty close. Like I said, don't have to be 100% accurate. It's close enough. So that's what I'm going with, and that's how you get that color. The next color down is light gray. It's supposed to be a Model Masters flat light gray. That's one of the colors I wasn't able to find, so the alternative was the AK light gray. And I took that and was able to mostly match that up with, oh God, what was the paint that I matched it up with? It was pale gray. This Folk Art pale gray. I took this again, emptied out about a fourth of it, poured a quarter of white into this, and mixed it up. And this is what I came up with. Still a little bit darker, a shade darker than what this calls for. This also has a slight green tint to it, which I haven't been able to get this to reproduce yet. But I'm still working on this one, but it's pretty close. So that's what I'm going to go with anyway. The pale gray from Folk Art is a close match to that. And then you had Tester's Copper, which I actually still had some. But the matchup to that, when I did tried it out with the copper paints, the copper craft paints were way darker than what this was, almost like a rose gold. So what I ended up doing was this color you see here is actually rose gold. This is copper. This is supposed to be copper, but it's lighter. This is darker than this copper. So I actually might go with the rose gold. I may mix the two, this copper and the rose gold together, and see what I get. Might be a little bit closer of a mix, but we'll see what it looks like when I get done. I got to match it up with studio reference photos too, and see what it looks like. But that's what I'm working on for that color. And then for this last color is a calls for Tamiya light blue XF23, which I've got. And what I ended up doing was I came across this Folk Art Matte Succulent, is what the paint's called, Succulent. And this one is called Greenscape. And if you do a 50-50 on these two paints, 50-50 mix, you come up with almost an exact match of the to me it calls for, it says it's light blue, but it looks more like greenish to me, but that's what they're calling it, is light blue. So 50-50 on those two paints, and you'll come up with a pretty damn close match to what you need there. So there is my interchange for those paints. I'm sorry if that was a little boring. Hopefully that may be informational to some people that don't have access to get the AKs without spending a fortune having them shipped. If you've got like I said, if you got a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's close by, go down, write those paints down, go down, get those. You'll be pretty damn close to what you need to be. And I've done some paint tests using some old masks I had. I don't know if this is going to show up on camera, but you can see this one I did here, kind of a toned down Aztec pattern there. So it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to try some other tests though. There are some pictures I want to show, so let me pull those up real quick and we'll take a look at those. Alright guys, so I did want to point out that there are some differences in the paint scheme between the refit, which is on the right here, and the A. Now don't let this green confuse you. I think when they took these pictures they used a filter, maybe to get these Aztecs to show up better, I don't know, but there was some type of, the reason you know this is the A and not the refit, even though it looks like it's got green strawbacks, is strongbacks, not strawbacks, strongbacks. There's a couple things that will tell you that this is a picture of the A. For one, you see this little detail right here on the blowout panels on the pylon. It kind of comes out at an angle like that. That is not present. Let me see if I can pull up. That is not present on the refit. That was added when they did the repaint. So you know that this is, even though it looks like a green strawback, again, that must have been a filter they used or something, because this is definitely the A that we are looking at. So that you can go by, and also you can go by this. There's a couple of panels that are noticeable. You can see this one here's kind of a long panel. And I will tell you right off that I've already looked, and the masks by Aztec masks by Mask Design get this correct. This panel, Aztec panel here, does not line up with this photo. This is obviously after the repaint was done. You can tell because on the refit paint job with the pearlescent paints, this section here was mostly a horizontal paint scheme. Everything kind of flowed towards the back, and on the lower hull everything was kind of vertical, whereas on the repaint it's more blocky. There's not really a flow to it. It's a bit different. I think I've got some other pictures I can show of this. You can see that here, kind of where it's blocky, especially this one here. And you see those same 3 windows. You can tell that that block is not there. That's on the refit. So you know this is the A that you're looking at, based on looking at some of those cues you can find. And then obviously you can see that these are the blue strongbacks. I will also mention something I did not know until I got the Trek Modeler paint guide, was that these strongbacks are different patterns on each side. When they did the repaint to the blue, they did different patterns on each side. So this side is not the same as the other side. Let me see if I can, I don't want to spend a lot of time. It's probably already been boring some people too much as it is, but hopefully some of you have found information. You can see that design there, that pattern again there was added after the repaint. I think this repaint was done sometime around Star Trek 5, and they did try to stay faithful to the original paint technique that was used. So this should be pretty close to, I don't know if they used the pearlescence and then dulled it down again like they did with the rest of it. From what I'd read, they had tried to stay true to that method. So but it's a shame what they did with this repaint. This I don't know if this was a sensor or what, but this part up here where the delta rests on the refit, this actually had the Aztecing to it. And then at some point they painted this a solid silver, and then on one side, I think the other side is just like more of a grayish. It's not even silver. So it's a shame what they did. And they took away, or did that repaint and took away some of the features that really made this shine in the motion picture. But anyway, I don't want to spend too long. It's already been a long video. Hopefully some of this information has been useful to you guys. I apologize if it's been a little boring in this video. There's information I just wanted to get out to everybody in case, especially you guys that have built this model before, or you're more comfortable with painting and stuff like that. It's probably a total snooze fest for you. But there was information I want to get out there for people that maybe are building this model for the first time and you're not sure where to go for lighting techniques or what considerations there are for painting. And obviously I didn't talk about pearlescent. I'm still on the fence about that. I really don't like the idea of doing the pearlescent and then toning it down. But there are some paint effects I don't think I'm going to be able to get unless I do it that way. So I've got one more paint test I'm going to do, and that'll be my decision-making test as to whether I'm going to try to just do a toned down version or whether I'm going to do the pearlescence and then spray a matte color, which I'm really not looking to do. But I do want to get a good result on this and a good final product. So anyway, guys, thank you for putting up with me. Thank you for grueling through this video. I know it's been kind of a bore at points because going over paints isn't very exciting, and we didn't really get into a lot of details, but we'll get into more of the details as the build goes on. I am looking to finish up this 1350. I've got a Wonderfest is not this weekend but the following weekend, and after that I will hopefully be ready to start getting into this excuse me, this build as a tribute to Ian Lawrence, who again we recently lost due to this battle with cancer. But again, guys, thank you. Please visit my comrades at arms, visit Gus over at Decals, and visit my good friend who I will be seeing at Wonderfest, Cass, over at Lake Monster Details. The links for both of those are always in the notes below. Give them a visit and see what you can find. But again, thank you everybody for watching. Till next time, keep modeling.